All right, kiddos, we're going to talk about adding and subtracting some rationals today. And since all a rational function is just a fraction, all of our rules for adding and subtracting fractions apply. For example, they have to have a common denominator. If they don't have a common denominator, then you can't add them or subtract them. That's the big important rule here. So if you look at this first one here, they have the same denominator already. They both say x plus 4 in the denominator, so I just have to add them up. So the denominator is going to be x plus 4, but my numerator, I'm going to have to add them together. So I'm going to do like terms only. I'm going to do x plus x, which makes 2x, and then I'm going to do negative 3 plus negative 2, which makes negative 5. You have added the two rationals, done. So look at the second one over here. These do not have a common denominator, and so I'm going to have to decide what I need to make a common denominator. So I'm going to look at them. I have 4x and I have x squared. Well, I need for this 4x here to end up with an x squared as part of its denominator, because that's the only way they're going to look alike. I've got to make them look the same. So I need to take this 4x and turn it into a 4x squared. And the only way to do that is to multiply it by x. That way I end up with 4 times x, which is 4x squared. The next one, this one right here, the x squared, I also want to make it look like 4x squared. And the only way to do that is to multiply it by 4. That way when I do that, I have my 4x squared. That tells me that this side with the 4x, I'm going to have to multiply by x over x, so that I have to multiply by the numerator and the denominator by the same thing. And then I'm going to have to multiply this one by 4 over 4, so they look the same. So this is going to become 3x over 4x squared minus 2 times 4 makes 8 over 4x squared. Now the denominators match, so I can subtract them. 4x squared is my new denominator, and then 3x minus 8 just becomes just that, 3x minus 8. Done. Let's try one that's a little more difficult. This one here is going to require that we factor the denominators first. I need to see what they look like in factored form so I can determine what they need to have in order to match, to be the same, so I have common denominators. So this x squared plus 5x plus 6, they were really nice to us because this x squared in front, it's just an x squared. It's not a 2x squared or a 3x squared or something other than just x squared. It makes it really simple to factor. If there had been a number in front of my x squared, it would make it more complicated, but it's just an x squared, so I need two numbers that multiply to make 6, that when I add make 5. Well, 1 times 6 when I add makes 7, so that's not it. 2 times 3 when I add makes 5, so those are my two factors. So this becomes x over x plus 2 times x plus 3 because of my two numbers that I just came up with. Minus, then this one, I have to now factor this one, x squared plus 4x plus 4. So again, it's just an x squared. I need two numbers that multiply to make 4, that add to make 4. Well, 1 times 4 when I add them makes 5. That doesn't work. 2 times 2 when I add them, that makes 4. So this becomes 2 over x plus 2 times x plus 2. And so what you'll notice when I write out what I have in my denominators, I have x plus 2 times x plus 3, and then I have x plus 2 times x plus 2. Well, they already have an x plus 2 in common, so I can ignore that. What they don't have in common is one has an x plus 3 and the other one has another x plus 2. So what that means is that I'm going to have to give this one a second x plus 2 from this denominator, and I'm going to have to give this one an x plus 3 from this denominator. So now I have to multiply them by themselves, ignoring what they already have in common. So this I will have to multiply by x plus 2, and this one I will have to multiply by x plus 3. So right here, when I do x plus 2 times x times x makes x squared, and 2 times x makes 2x. And then in the denominator down here, I have x plus 2 and x plus 2, which is the same thing as x plus 2 squared. And then I have an x plus 3 minus. Over here, when I do 2 times the x plus 3, I get 2x plus 6. And then in this denominator, I have x plus 2 squared, because there were two of them, and x plus 3. So now my denominators match. I can subtract My denominator is going to be x plus 2 squared times x plus 3. And my numerator, I'm going to subtract like terms. So I'm going to do my x squared, has nothing over here to subtract, so it's just going to stay x squared. Then I have 2x minus 2x, so they just cancel each other out. And then I have nothing to do with minus 6, so then minus 6 is the rest of it. So that becomes my final answer. I've now subtracted. We'll call it done. So let's do one more, just so we can make sure we get it. This one right here, if you look at my denominators, I have 2x minus 5 and 3x plus 1, and you see they do not match. Since they do not match, I'm going to have to make them match. But in this case, they made it real easy. I just need to multiply them by each other. I need to give this one the 3x plus 1. And I need to give this one the 2x minus 5. That way, they share with each other. Now, when I multiply, I have to multiply 3x plus 1 times 3x minus 5. And we have to go way back to Algebra 1. Remember multiplying polynomials. So we do 3x times 3x, which is 9x squared. 3x times negative 5 is minus 15x. 1 times 3x is plus 3x. And then 1 times negative 5 becomes minus 5. Now I'm going to simplify that before I write my problem out. I can add those two in the middle together. So this becomes 9x squared minus 12x minus 5. And then my denominator I'm not going to multiply out. I'm going to have 3x plus 1 times 2x minus 5 minus. Now this one I have to do the same thing. Just like I did, I'm going to have to do 2x times 2x, which makes 4x squared. Then 2x times negative 5 makes minus 10x. Negative 5 times 2x makes minus 10x again. And then negative 5 times negative 5 makes plus 25. And just like before, I'm going to combine those two. So I get 4x squared minus 20x plus 25. And then the denominator should now match because I have the 3x plus 1 and the 2x minus 5. So now I can subtract. Your denominator is 3x plus 1 times 2x minus 5. And then in the numerator, I'm going to just do like terms together. So I have 9x squared minus 4x squared. Well, 9 minus 4 is 5. Then I have negative 12x minus negative 20x. So that's negative 12 minus negative 20. And if I were you, I'd grab my calculator and just type that in. Or you can remember that when you have two minus signs together, it makes a plus. So this becomes plus 8x. And then I have negative 5 minus 25, like this, which becomes minus 30. And there is your simplified answer. You've subtracted the two rationals. You're good to go. So that's adding and subtracting rationals. If you still have questions, especially about how to get the common denominator, make sure you come into one of my tutoring times to see me and we'll talk about it.